Anyway, that's enough trouble for us. Let's talk about the movie.
In a world of movie references flying over his head, one man will finally watch them. This is the Matt and Blonde Show movie review.
This week's movie is the 2000 Coen Brothers film, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?, in which a trio of prison escapees led by one charismatic man who dupes the other two with promises of treasure and riches flees across Great Depression, Mississippi to reunite with the man's wife, all to become an unlikely smash hit boy band in the end. From movie picker Amanda, this movie is a great retelling of The Odyssey, set in the Depression era of 1937 in rural Mississippi. It has great music and absolutely fantastic cast. Sorry, Blonde, no Mel Gibson, though. And is as well done as it is enjoyable. Everyone I've ever met who has seen it has loved it. I'm no exception here. As always, your thoughts and your rating.
Ugh, people are going to hate me like way more than they already do. Okay, so I should start off by saying I like the Coen Brothers. Some of my favorite films are Coen Brothers films. And Alison Krauss and Union Station featuring Jerry Douglas, all-time favorite band. They did the soundtrack to this. At least Jerry Douglas did. I'm a man of constant sorrow. I'm pretty sure Down to the River to Pray was also Alison Krauss. So, Chef's Kiss. I like that. However, I also love John Turturro. He's great. I love him in Quiz Show. And
which character was that? Or which, what did he do? I don't know the name.
Ugly bastard.
Well, there's like multiple of those.
but with the schnoz and the messed up teeth. What was his name in it?
Is it Pete or Delmar?
Turned into a
one
toad.
Of the two.
Pete.
Yeah.
Pete. Yeah. Okay. Outside of that, I'm probably in the minority. Thinking that this movie was a disaster.
Wow.
Total disaster.
Okay.
And I watched it again because I had only seen it once a few years ago. I didn't like it a few years ago. And then I watched it again. I was like, wow, this is even worse than I remember. Speaking of homosexuals, yeah, George Clooney. So it was totally plot driven. Like totally plot driven. I didn't know or care very much about the characters. And then I always find this a problem in films. And it seemed like these vignettes weren't helping to develop the characters at all. And I know it was highly stylized and there were things about it that I liked. And it just didn't move the plot forward or move the characters forward in any way, develop them. And I don't know. I just felt like it was circular and pointless and this on the run thing. It was just, I just found it so annoying. There's some good one-liners and funny moments, but generally I just, again, found it lacking interest and substance. I don't hate this movie. I don't hate it. But I just don't understand the hype when there are so many other excellent Coen Brothers films. Like why did we not watch A Serious Man? That movie is that's like a world-class movie. I don't know, 2 out of 5. Sorry,
2?
guys. I know. Ugh. I bet you didn't like it either.
You're wrong, actually. I did like it. I might have been forced to like it by my wife holding me at gunpoint because it's one of her favorite movies. No, I went into it not allowing that to sway me. And and I wasn't sold on it completely at the start. I thought maybe this was going the wrong direction, but especially the back half of the movie, it got me back on board. And the things I appreciated, I think that it is very well written, not just as a matter of specific line scripting, but as a matter of themes. There are great lines here and there. I love the line, "It's a fool that looks for logic in the chambers of the human heart." Great line. I love the exchange when they're trying to match the one political candidate's use of a midget by bringing in their own midget. It's like, we can't do that. They'll see right through it. Doesn't matter how stumpy. Don't matter how stumpy is a great line. And plenty of respectable people have been hit by trains. I love that. The explanation from the wife about how she explained to others how Everett disappeared.
Holly Hunter? No.
I don't know. I don't know who the wife actress was, but
it was Holly Hunter, yeah.
Some of the broad themes of the scripting I really like too. There's this great exchange in the movie theater where Everett is explaining to Delmar. It's a long quote, but the summary is, never trust a woman. That is,
yeah.
Women are torture devices. triumph of the subjective rules them. Believe me, Delmar, woman is the most fiendish instrument ever devised to bedevil the days of man. Don't trust women, and your time with me will not have been ill spent. And that it's a fascinating contradiction with that, because, but somehow all of it is true. Also, Everett's point about women and subjectivity, I think, is all but undeniable.
Yeah.
And yet, Everett is not following his own advice. The whole premise is returning to his wife based on trust that she will take him back. Mm-hmm. And then in the end, she doesn't even do that until he's shown to have newfound fame and riches, in which she comes back to him, not on any principle of the sanctity of marriage, loyalty to her husband, but just because her husband suddenly has much more to offer.
Yeah.
And it was just a more artful way of expressing the classic phrase, women, you can't live with them, you can't live without them. It was contradictory premises that are simultaneously true. And if ever there was a context in which that was possible, it would be women. And I just really appreciated, I liked that storyline. I thought it was full of contradictions that still made sense, which was really interesting. A lot of writing on the themes of the origin of the law and morality when they get busted by the sheriff.
Yeah.
And they're saying, well, no, we've been pardoned. He says, the law is a human institution. He tries to go through with it before the flood comes in. And it was a great demonstration that the law and morality might overlap. They're not the same thing, though. And that, we can act within the law and be profoundly immoral. Or in this context, at least from the sheriff's perspective, it's why we can act outside of the law, and that can be a moral necessity. So interesting commentary there on the difference between morality and the law. And I love the just the contemptible nature of politicians. They both are terrible. You got one guy who's like a lynch mob leader in disguise. Right. Although the whole KKK scene was funny, and I appreciated that. But as a guy, he seems like not a great guy. You got Pappy O'Daniel, the incumbent, who seizes on the success of the Soggy Bottom Boys to pardon them, not on any principle or matter of law, but just because he stands to gain politically, because they're popular in the moment. And it's just interesting. And these two politicians, you're supposed to pick a side. They're both garbage. They both are looking for personal advancement at your expense. That's it. They did some edgy, as I mentioned, like they did the midget jokes. They did the KKK rally. There were some edgy topics that were done in a fun and funny way that may not always be possible these days. I appreciated that. Soundtrack was great. You touched on that. I loved the scene with the young Hogwallop at Pete's cousin's house, because he came out with the M1 shooting them to get off his property. And here I thought that was a Clint Eastwood Gran Torino bit.
Yeah.
Maybe Clint Eastwood ripped this movie off because they're kind of similar. The things I didn't like, actually nothing specific, which was sort of weird. You ever have basically nothing but praise for a movie, but for some reason you just don't love it? I can't put it in my highest tier because I wasn't necessarily thrilled or cracking up or thinking super deeply, but I still enjoyed it, and it was still worthy of my time. This is a completely nitpicky thing to say, but the obscure title kind of gets me too. Like, I have no idea what the hell this movie is based on the title.
It was based on Homer's Odyssey.
It's a reference to, well, the story's based on that, but the title is from a 1941 movie about that includes a fictional novel. The movie is Sullivan's Travels.
Oh, really?
So, this is like you shouldn't judge a book by its cover kind of thing. But in this case, I just had no idea what to expect. So I suggest The Jailbreak Journey to the Surprise KKK Hoedown as the name of this movie. That's what I would prefer. But it probably would do much more poorly if I were entrusted to name it. So it gets 4 out of 5 wikis from me.
Wow.
Pretty good.
Pretty good.
It was well written. It was well performed. It was well everything. And I may not completely love it, but it's closer to love than hate. And I wrote in the review, I'd have a hard time imagining anybody despising Oh Brother. And yet, here you are.
No, I don't hate this movie. I don't really understand the cult-like following around the Coen brothers' two most mediocre films, The Big Lebowski and this movie. The
early vote, 5 and 4 wikis, clear solid majority in the 5 and 4. In fact, your 2 is down in the tiny minority of 6.5%.
But what about A Serious Man and No Country for Old Men, and there are many other movies that are way better than their even
You don't have to
Inside
hate-
Llewyn Davis.
You don't have to hate
Fargo.
those or hate this one to love those, though.
Yes, but the ones Barton Fink, the ones that have risen to this kind of like cult status are amongst their most mediocre films.
That's just you got to blame movie picker Amanda. That's her
Amanda,
fault.
you bitch.
She's done though. She had her time in April and she's done. Thank you, Amanda.
Well, Amanda, you did a good job. We watched some good films this month.
Except for Rocky, but that wasn't your fault.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah. Next week we have in May we have nominations from listener Michael. The audience selected from his nominations last week One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, which I know basically nothing about. I have not seen it. Have you?
I just watched that. Yeah.
That seems to be common. It's like every movie that we pick you've seen lately.
When I'm trying to conceive, I watch a ton of movies.
Makes sense, I suppose. Okay, and then the nominations after that, the list includes Last of the Mohicans, The Outlaw Josie Wales, Midsommar, Richard Jewell, The Hunt, The Enforcer, Breaking Away. Of course, you can reject the list and select a randomly selected IMDb top-rated movie instead. Pretty even split on the early vote for the next movie. So if you are partial to any one of those, including none at all, get in there and vote. And as a reminder, if you'd like to read my movie reviews, comment how wrong I am, submit your own rating, vote for the next movie, and sign up for the chance to be the movie nominator for the month. The one and only place to do all of those things is in my weekly movie review column, linked in the description and on the homepage of the website. That is mattchristiansenmedia.com.